Hello, everybody. I am Carolyn Burke from Mystic Mums, and I am really, really excited to have my friend Karen Bell with me today from kbintuitive.com. She's actually an intuitive mentor, clairvoyant, and she's also a jewelry designer and an artist. And so I'm really excited to have her here joining me today because we are going to talk a little bit about this idea of putting yourself first as a mom, and not only just putting yourself first, but how not to lose yourself as a mom.
Mm-hmm.
So KB, tell me a little bit about you. Oh, KB's also a mom.
Yeah, I am a mom. That
helps. She's got a 3.5-year-old son. So tell me a little bit about this idea of how not to lose yourself. Did you notice that happening? You know, that transition that's so major when we go from being pregnant to having a baby and entering into motherhood.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I had a bit of a heads up because I had already been giving readings for a few years, and I had come across this situation with clients. And also, I design jewelry now, but before my jewelry business, I had a dog collar business that I sold. And the person who bought it was actually a mom who had lost herself, and her husband bought her this business so that she would have something for herself. So I had, before I had my son, I had come across this issue with other people. So I knew that was common.
Yes.
And that sometimes happens when women have babies and they end up losing themselves in this role of motherhood.
Yes.
So I was adamant not to let that happen to me. I think it did happen to me, but I mean, I was mailing jewelry on the way to the hospital when I was in labor. So that might give you an idea of how
let's just stop here at the post office.
I know I'm in labor. Just let me mail this jewelry because I might be out of commission for a week and I can't.
Yeah.
So,
and I love that idea. Just for a week, I might be out of commission, right?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
So I was adamant that not happen to me. And so keeping my jewelry business was important for that reason, because I realized that if I lost, particularly the creative part of myself, that I was worried about that because it's such a big part of my life. However, I did end up having a pretty traumatic labor and postnatal experience. And so, which I wasn't really prepared for, I wasn't expecting. And so I think I lost myself in that. I was able to keep my business going. Actually, I never closed my shop or anything. But I did lose myself in that experience. And it took a long time to regain my health, my mental health, my physical health. It took probably, to be honest, about at least 2 years before I started having a glimpse of myself again after that. So it's a very real thing. And I think also you just, I think you just have to be prepared that might happen and have strategies in place or ideas in place of how you can deal with it when it does happen.
You know, many of us have been there, right? So whether it's the prenatal, postnatal kind of tragedies that can happen or like shakeups that can happen, it can be really hard to find your ground again.
Definitely.
Plus, I know for many moms, it's this idea of this brand new role. Like I can remember this feeling of responsibility that like what was going to happen. And I had cut my hand. I only had one child at the time. And I'd cut my hand pretty badly. Like I'm a little bit klutzy. So I was, I don't know what I was doing, making food or something. And I'd cut my hand and was really bleeding. And I had to sit down and I had this baby there and they're just looking at me. And I was like, what the heck am I going to do here if I had this feeling of, it's all on my shoulders and it's such a huge responsibility. So
it is.
And that waiting at the end of the day for somebody to walk in the door to help, and not everybody even has that, right? So that there's this at that point I did where I could be like, okay, I literally called it the kitchen floor days, where I'd just be sitting on the kitchen floor with the baby, just like, this is as far as we can go, is just play with pots and just sit here. And please somebody come and help me, because it was such a transition, like such a huge responsibility.
It is. I was just going to say about the responsibility part. I think that's one of the reasons we can check out energetically because it's overwhelming and you don't really realize the magnitude of the responsibility till you're in it. And then, if it's too much for you, then you just check out.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I did. I was not in my body, like energetically speaking. I know that, and part of that was due to a C-section. I ended up having an emergency C-section, and I think that surgery traumatized me. But I just know that I was like floating somewhere, like I wasn't even in my body, just because of the overwhelm, the trauma, everything. Mm-hmm.
I love this conversation because I feel like there's so much like, oh, just love being a mom, and it's such a, like you're so lucky, and I think, and then there's moms that don't have showers for days on end and can't get out the door. And one of my friends is always laughs at me because even till this day, my kids are older right now. They're 12 and 14, but I have a bath or shower every day. Like and she's like, even if it's dropping kids at school and I'm working from home all day, it's like, no, I just can't be in that place of not being able to get my appearance looking better than subpar, like which it would be holding a baby, looking out the window thinking, am I ever going to have a shower? Am I ever going to do anything for myself? I
remember those days. I actually have a really vivid memory of my sister calling me.
Yeah.
And Rhodes would have been probably in the first few months. And my sister called me up and she was like, she doesn't have children, by the way. Yeah. My sister calling me up and being like, so what you doing today? And I'm like, well, I'm going to be breastfeeding for about 9 hours because that's how long he nurses for. So I'll be sitting in this chair, not having a shower, feeding my son. But it was like the mentality was like, oh, you're gonna go to the mall, you're gonna go out for a walk. I'm like, no, I'm gonna be sitting here. Like, I think people underestimate the magnitude of, especially with a newborn, magnitude of just what that life actually looks like.
Yeah, totally. And then even as they get older, right? Like I think you and I were talking about how a lot of moms run into the situation of feeling guilty and not wanting to take time for themselves, not wanting to, and this can be for someone who's like a stay-at-home mom, somebody who's a working mom, single mom, co-parenting parent, whatever it is, that it feels like the children have to be the number one priority and you get pushed way to the bottom of the list. Yeah. So, which is a complete equation for losing yourself.
Yeah, I think that's the conditioning and the programming is that for women, and actually for women, not even mothers, but mothers, of course, is that you're just expected to put everyone ahead of yourself. And it's so dysfunctional because if you do that, then you have absolutely nothing to give and you burn out really fast.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And so then there's this idea of, okay, you feel guilty. You don't want to do this because you feel like you're not a good enough mom. And I think, in creating the Mystic Moms course, one of the biggest things I notice is moms not feeling good about themselves as a mom.
Yes,
and
definitely.
Not recognizing that they're actually doing amazing work every single day.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree with that. And it's not really honored or valued in our culture, really. Like work and making money and accomplishing, that seems to be more valued than mothering and parenting. And then there is this whole other set of programming that's trying to make us all believe that we're not good enough.
Yeah. Like for everybody in the world. Even.
Yeah, for everyone in the world, because that's how you get people to buy stuff, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Or, to consume. It's like, oh, I'm not good enough. I need this and I need that. And so it's almost like a virus. I call it like a virus in the mind of humanity that we're all buying into that. And especially with mothers, I think, which is horrible because if you hold that belief, it does somehow translate through the energetics of parenting, as you're saying, like it does translate to your child and the child picks up on that and then they start believing that. It's not even something you have to voice. It's just I think it's an energy field that they pick up on.
Absolutely. So. And so what do we do? What have you found has worked to not lose yourself? Like, I love what you're saying because you're like so honest and real for all those moms that have been in similar positions where they really had to find their footing. You came back into yourself. Like how did that happen?
It's interesting because I think one thing that I've been pretty good at is just asking myself what I need.
Yes.
So, and using my body as kind of the gauge of that. So being less in my head, and I mean, yoga has really helped me with that, being less in my head and more in my body, and asking what I need. You know, when I was in postpartum anxiety and postpartum depression, my doctor just kept giving me prescriptions for Zoloft. She must have given me a prescription for Zoloft 3 times. And every time I would actually take the prescription, and I mean, sometimes, just let me say that sometimes that is a bridge that people need, but for me, it didn't feel right in my body.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like the right path for me. And so I was just really honest with myself about, you know,
yeah.
what do I need right now? And the answer was a lot of time to myself. And I'm lucky that I have a partner that is able to, you know, allow me to have that.
Yeah.
A lot of yoga. One benefit during this time was I did get pretty serious about my meditation practice, because it came down to, okay, either I am going to take this prescription or I'm going to try daily meditation. Let's just maybe give the meditation 2 months and see how that goes. And it made such a huge difference for me. So I've done that. And I mean, I have a team of healers. I have an acupuncturist who you met on the weekend. I have a naturopath who I see for somatic healing. I have a social worker who I see for counseling once a month. And those are things that I do still to this day. And so I think it's just being loving towards yourself and realizing if these are things you need, you don't need to feel shame about
That's
them.
right.
You don't need to feel bad that you need to go to counseling. You know, there's no shame.
Yep.
In this. You know,
oh my God, it's like a team. It's like we all need a mothering support team. And
you're the primary support for this new life, but who's supporting you?
Yeah.
You know, and that might look different from each person, but only you know that. It's that you have to ask yourself that question, what do I need, and listen for the answer. That's where your own intuition comes in.
Absolutely. And how important it is, what you're saying is how our energy really impacts our ability to do anything. Like,
definitely.
Like if we're not filled up, obviously we're not able to nurture a life. Right.
Yes.
And I certainly know that when I'm not in a good space, it translates through to my kids. For sure. They pick up on what I'm doing. They pick up on my energy. They pick up on my exhaustion, or when I'm up to here, you know, like, Mom, what's going on?
I know it's important to note, we were just talking about this before the call, that it is an energetic transference. It doesn't have to be verbal or action oriented. It's just a vibration that they pick up on. And if you're not, this is what I really feel. I feel like if you're not facing your stuff, your kids will start channeling it through their body. So if you're really angry or frustrated and you're not being honest about how you feel and dealing with that, then, you know,
there you go.
In the case of me, my 3-year-old is going to have a huge tantrum.
Yep, absolutely.
He's going to be honest, right? Because he doesn't have the programming that's not okay yet, that we need to suppress it. So he's going to pick up on that energy and he's going to move it through his body. So
that's right.
It's interesting. Your kids are like a mirror for whatever you're doing.
And I always think this is the hardest job. It's the hardest job I've ever done in my life. And I've done lots of hard work as a social worker and a counselor and, you know, with young offenders and all sorts of stuff. And I'm like, nope, this would be the hardest job because of how personal it is. Like you said, because of how much we get to look at our own shit.
Oh God, definitely.
Every day.
Every day. Yeah. And that everyday part is probably part of the reason it's so challenging, because if it's a job or even a friend you're having a challenge with, I mean, you get a break from that.
Yeah.
You don't really get a lot of breaks from parenting.
Yeah, exactly. But that is one way not to lose yourself, right? Is to really carve out some space for yourself, whether that is like to go towards your passions, go to work, to even take a walk, whatever it is.
Definitely. That's for me been life-changing, is just having time to myself every weekend. And, you know, I'm home with my son still. He's not quite in school yet, but we did decide to send him to this preschool program. So he goes there in the mornings. And so that's another chunk of time that I can work, which is amazing. I think initially I had planned on I'm just going to stay home with him till he's 4.
Yeah.
And it'll just be me and him. And then I really quickly realized that was not going to be the healthiest option for any of us.
Yes.
You know, like, because again, if I don't have that time to work, if I don't have the time for myself, then I'm not really the best mom.
Yeah. I totally agree. This is, and everybody's different. Like you're saying, is like, I love that we go back to the beginning, which is, what is it that you need? Because if you don't know what you need, you're going to need something different than KB is going to need and that I'm going to need, because
Yeah.
you are you. So
Yes.
you are saying, you know, all I need to do is once a week, I've got to go to my art class, or once a week, I've got to go to, or get on my mat, on my yoga mat every day. Or like you said, meditating. I got goosebumps when you were talking about the meditation, because that's such a powerful example of you being able to still yourself and create change. Definitely.
And I think it's one of the reasons that I am a mom. Like when I look back on it, I'm like, oh, this was really about spiritual growth, this path, because I can see how it's probably the biggest shift of my life spiritually, to be honest with you. There's nothing that could have catalyzed the shift in me like having a baby did, and at the time that wasn't a pretty transformation, to be completely honest with you. It was very challenging. I remember you visiting me when Rhodes was a baby and he was colicky, and I was like holding him in the living room and he would not stop crying. It was very challenging, but I just see how that challenge was a catalyst for extreme growth. It's almost like the magnitude of the challenge is equal to the magnitude of the growth. If you let it be, if you see it.
Yeah. And like you're saying, if you know that it's going to be rocky.
Yeah. You just have to be prepared.
Yeah, exactly.
That prepared for that rockiness and know that there's divine purpose in it. That's how I see pretty much all challenge now. It's like, okay, this is going to be really hard, but I just look back on my life and see that those huge challenges that really I did not want to go through were the most massive catalyst for positive change when I got to the other side of it. So it's all in divine order, even if you can't see it in that moment.
So if a mom is feeling like they're losing themselves, this kind of philosophy really is helpful, right? Because the philosophy is that you will know that this is actually gaining yourself and you're actually taking yourself to a different level, whether that's sideways or up or down, whatever. It's you're going through a transformation. So you'll feel that sense of where am I often.
Yes. And you feel it's almost like a contraction, but you feel the contraction because something's going to expand.
Yes.
So it's like, I have a teacher that says chaos is always the prelude to transformation.
Yes.
And that's stuck in my head since he's said that years and years ago.
Yeah.
So that when you're going through chaos, you can be like, okay, yeah, I am in it. But life is cyclical. So we know that the chaos comes and then what happens? If you flow with the chaos and you don't resist it, and that's the really important key, is not resisting it and not suppressing it, not running away from it. You can stay with your chaos. Then the other side of it is, it's amazing because you're stronger, you've released fear, you're more in alignment with your highest self. I mean, it's incredible, but you have to be willing to move through it and not run away from it, which is not really the popular way to deal with chaos.
No, it isn't. No, not at all.
Right.
And then I think like coming down to like the day to day, how that looks for people. So,
oh gosh. Yeah.
And these challenges that come up in our energy and our, ability to know what we're feeling like. And a lot of it, I think is tuning into, as we said, tuning into what we need, but that's also knowing what we're feeling. It's knowing, it's
and being
like
honest,
knowing like, I actually am so frustrated. I'm so exhausted. I'm overwhelmed, or I'm feeling really happy right now. And this is why things are moving in the way that they are. So it's this, if we're going to look at it, like how not to lose yourself, is really how to be really aware of what's going on for you.
Yeah. Like in tune with yourself.
Yeah.
And no guilt about that. So if you're being really triggered by your child, or if you're having a difficult time, no shame, no guilt, just honesty and vulnerability. And to be honest, I think that's the only way that I move through postpartum depression with grace, is just being cool with it.
Yeah.
And not trying to
hide it.
I was pretty open with it and real with it. And to me, I just thought, well, of course I would be going through this. I mean, if you think about a 40-hour labor that ended in an emergency C-section, and just having a colicky baby that didn't stop crying. And if you think of the challenges, well, of course I would have postpartum depression.
Yeah.
You know,
which is like removing all shame or guilt, because it's saying this is just the result of this.
Yeah. Like when people are traumatized, there's a result to that needs to be honored, not shamed, just honored and understood and looked at with compassion. And then you can, then I feel like when you're aligned with compassion, then you know what to do. Like you know who you need to see about it. You know the path. But if you're in avoidance of it, then you're probably going to do something that magnifies that avoidance, you know, like an addiction or, you know, whatever it may be. Yeah. Whatever your coping pattern of avoidance is, which is different for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. We have it all, right?
Yes, everyone has something.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel really inspired by this idea that like things that we can do that can help us, like meditate, take time for ourselves, even the creative stuff. So for me, I like to do pottery. And so like I've come in and out of that over the years with my kids. When I've had a little bit more time, I've signed up for classes, and it's really like an outlet. And actually it's pretty hard. Like, it's not like people think, oh, you're just
like that scene in Ghost where you're just like,
like, come on, it is so challenging. But what it is I'm focusing on something else.
Yeah.
So all of my energy, and then I can create something, right? So
the other thing that I'm thinking as you're saying that, and I receive this when I'm creating too, is that your energy moves out of your head and into your hands.
Yes.
So you're not in your thinking mind quite so much. You get lost in that creative zone, and that is so healing.
Yes.
You know, when I was kind of in this postpartum phase, I just felt drawn to that. And it wasn't even that I felt drawn to create jewelry. It's just like I felt like going to Michael's and walking around and just scrapbooking or collaging or whatever. And I realized after it's because it was my body's way of showing me what would be healing for me in that moment. So we need to get out of our heads when we're in this. We need to
absolutely. And
so for some people, finger paint and stuff.
It's right. Yeah. Like you can do that with your kids, but you can also do it for yourself. Right. So that I know moms that are like get together and do these paint nights, or they'll get together and do certain things with other people. And that's the other thing too, is like your recharging could be with someone else. It could be on your own.
Yeah, definitely.
It's just a matter of, letting other options come in. So the creativity, I think, is a great one.
Definitely. And it's knowing yourself. So I'm super introverted, and so I do need time to myself, but someone who's more extroverted or social might want to be with a group, you know. So it comes back again of just continually asking yourself, well, what do I need in this moment? Because that's a moment of self-compassion right there when you take time to ask yourself that. Yeah,
I was one of those moms when my babies were little that I needed to be in moms groups because I felt isolated. So I wouldn't just go to one moms group. I would go to this one and this one and this one. And it helped me to feel like, oh, that person's doing it that way. That person's doing it that way. And it's all okay.
Yes.
But like you said, individualized. I needed the community, or when I'm working from home, even to this day, if I don't get out at least once and see a person, I go a little bonkers. So
especially when you're like a mom of a newborn baby, you need that so badly. Yeah, I needed that too. Even as an introvert, I just I just need to see a human being.
Just a conversation at the grocery store. Like it could be the tiniest little thing.
Yeah.
But it also is, and I think this is that we are still ourselves as we are parents. So that it doesn't become that we're a mom and we're only a mom.
Yeah.
You know, we are still KB, we are still Carolyn. We are still vibrant people who have interests and needs and ideas to share. And we also are moms that can use all that energy from our creativity and our ideas and our interactions with others to fuel the parenting.
Definitely. And the trouble is, I just want to mention, the trouble is if you don't do that early on, then, you know, you can lose yourself in motherhood. And for some people that feels really great because they start to identify with themselves just as a mom. But then when your kids become more independent, that's when it becomes a problem. If all of a sudden you don't have that anymore. You don't know what to do with yourself.
Yeah.
You know, because that sense of identity is gone. So you might as well address it early on, because I think that's healthier for your child, not to be putting all of that dependence on them. Because again, they'll pick up on that too and be like, oh, like I'm the reason my mom exists. Like that's not a good feeling for your child to feel, because they start to feel like they owe you, or that everything they do, you know, your happiness is dependent on what they do. So I just feel like addressing all of this when the children are as young as possible is probably in everyone's best interest.
I think so too.
Not to wait.
And it actually, it helps the kids. It helps the kids to see you doing other things. So I know for my kids, they'll be like, "Oh, mom, like, what are you doing? And that's so interesting that you run your own business." And it helps them to see you as doing lots of different things. But that could be anything. So if you're a stay-at-home mom, it could be being in charge of the whole neighborhood get together once a month and organizing stuff at school. It could be anything.
Well, then your kids learn that following how healthy it is to follow your passion, right? No matter what your passion is. And then they feel inspired to figure out what that is for themselves and follow it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's one of the best things that you could teach your child.
Yes.
In general, is to follow that.
Yes. And it's
that's where your soul, I feel, is calling you to. Whatever you feel passionate about, that's the path.
Absolutely.
So.
Well, this has been amazing. I feel like I could talk with you for another hour.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's great, KB, to hear what you have to share. If anybody wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way that they can do that if they're interested in some of your products, or also some of your guidance?
Sure. So my website for intuitive readings is intuitivekb.com. And my email is kb@intuitivekb.com. And my jewelry, my shop online is beginwithinjewelry.com.
Okay. And they can find you on Instagram and on Facebook.
Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter.
All of it.
All of the things.
It's really fun to see the transformation that you've been through. And I feel really honored to have witnessed that and to have you share
thank you.
Openly about the struggles, but also the triumphs. So it feels very inspiring. And I feel like this will be helpful for lots of moms.
Oh, I hope so. Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll see you later. Namaste.
Namaste.